Okay, Alex, start with your creepy intro and
Yeah.
we can go.
Good day, people. Today we invited a person who was bringing people together in real life to collect them, to assemble communities out of them. And then the pandemic happened. And then the event went virtual. And then I was to ask her, how does she bring in people into online communities these days? But Lera and Anna had totally different opinion about what we're gonna talk today. So let's just sit back, relax, and enjoy this video. I have zero expectations of what gonna happen next.
Fun. So let's firstly introduce ourselves just briefly. I'm Lera. I'm the artist and community manager, and I'm wait a second. Wait. I'm a boss lady. Thank you. Yes.
Anna?
I'm Anna. I am local engineer, a writer, and I don't know, a person with millions of hobbies. Yes, that's my personality.
This is most important.
I have a lot of hobbies. I sometimes implement them. Sometimes I just geek out about them.
And I'm the man of many talents with so much experience, but nobody gives a fucking care.
Yes, exactly. So Jana, you can introduce yourself better than Alex, so tell a few words about yourself.
I'm Jana. I'm just excited. This is like the best way to start my morning. We should have started recording 20 minutes ago.
I know, right? He fucked up again, so you know.
I'm Jana. I've been doing community building for, I guess, 13, 14 years, specializing in, I love small stage startups. And then I currently work at a company called HashiCorp. But I have a dog. I live in New York City. I love fun and I love dancing. Coffee.
Yes. That's amazing.
So, can I start with a question that I bring
go
Yellow
for
it? Or?
Okay. Otherwise,
there's a huge chance that that's the only single word that they're gonna let me say today. So I'm trying to jump in with that. So, but no,
the Jana, serious questions first, or do we get to?
They're gonna kick me out of the stream later. That's okay. So I'm trying to get my chances. I'm trying to get my chances.
You see, I wore a fun shirt for you today. Fun holiday shirt.
Yes. It's beautiful.
Yes, we all dressed up beautiful today, except Alex.
Go ahead.
So it's okay. Go ahead with your question.
I hope people you're enjoying this conversation as much as me.
Faster. You're wasting the time.
Yes, you're wasting your time.
Jana. I really care about one thing, about building communities in real life versus building communities online, pretty much, since that's how we all should do it these days. And you also have a book that we're going to talk about, and then we're also going to talk about Café Jana, and that's the teaser, so I have a chance to speak again in this podcast. But let's start from real life communities versus online communities, since what I understand that's your specialty.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's all part of the same thing, right? So when you're building community, there's a set of kind of programs and initiatives that you launch, right? Whether they're in real life, you have meetups, user groups, conferences, hangouts, workshops, in-person trainings, right? And then online, you have another set of programs that's setting up a Discord or a Slack or a virtual event or a virtual webinar, online learn platforms. So anyways, you build community using these different tools that you have.
And so you have a lot of experience in the online world. No, offline, sorry. But I'm interested, when this all happened, like this radical shift happened, how did you manage the transition process? Because I assume it was very stressful just because of everything that was going on, and you have experienced.
Oh no, last year was so chill. We all didn't feel pressed and anxious, and after, like, watch all of our plans, everything we built just completely get unraveled. No, so I mean, so I work at a company called HashiCorp, right? And we were planning 3 large-scale conferences, expecting about 6,000 to 8,000 people. Our first like major like user conference or community conference was going to be in Sydney, and then we were going to do it in Amsterdam and California. And yeah, with the pandemic, the numbers kept going up. We just kept watching that, and we had to really quickly kind of make the decision to transition to build these online. That's a whole other thing, right? Always having contingency plans is so important. We had like a risk assessment. So we had a couple different things. So we had contingency plans. Hey, if the travel warning goes up to, let's say, orange, then we should go to contingency plan B, which is more smaller scale in person and some type of digital. Okay, if the travel warning goes up to red, we have to do fully virtual, right? So we kind of built these contingency plans, I think in February, right? And then we also put together a risk assessment. So we're like, hey, right, when you do in person, you sign contracts. So you have a lot of like vendors, catering, photographers, food, hotel, and they have cancellation clauses. So we put together a risk assessment. Hey, if we wait to cancel until 180 days out, this is the risk to the company, right? Monetarily. So we, between that kind of our contingency plans and our risk assessment, like the financial cost of the company, we were able to make a decision pretty early of like, oh shit, we should move all of our conferences virtual. So that was kind of the one piece. And then 2, I mean, my team and I, we've always approached community building. We've always had these 4 pillars that we base all of how we design our programs against, right? So for the HashiCorp community, it's always about knowledge sharing. It's always about genuine connections, building trust, and designing with empathy. So it's these literally these 4 pillars that I have used since I started at HashiCorp in 2015 to design any experience. So for us, right, we kind of took a step back and we're like, okay, why do people come to our community? And then how do we approach building these community programs? And we took that lens, and that's how we designed our virtual conferences last year.
So the way it works, that you bring in people together online to the conference, and what happens then? Do you have dedicated Slack space for each conference? Do you convert them into a community? Do you empower them to network somehow? So like, how do you convert attendees to a community?
Well, there's a couple things. One of the mistakes folks made last year was they tried to take what they do at the in-person, right? And that also means how they build community in person, and translate it online. But for us, we're like, okay, how do people interact online, right? And also, why do they come to our conferences? So for us, right, they really needed the education, right? So we need to make sure we had really good speakers, we had really good talks, right, that people could watch the talks, and then also for connection. So we're like, how do we connect people in an online setting? And so that's what we tried to figure out last year. And then last week, we just finished our European conference as well. So the couple of things that we do to like build community online, well, sorry, I'm a bit sick. Actually built our own platform, which is nutty. I don't recommend it. But we built our own platform to run. But now that I'm seeing like Discord and like this, but for us, right, we didn't want a disparate experience, right? So it's like, okay, you have to watch the talks on Zoom, and then you have to go and download Discord or Slack for chat, and then you have to use this for Q&A. So we actually, because again, right, one of our pillars is designing with empathy. So we're like, how do we design the community experience, right? From the second someone logged into their platform, they saw a countdown to start, they were able to chat with each other, they were able to create profiles, ask speaker questions. And then we built a feature called Lightning Talks. So people were able to, it almost works like the hallway track. So people were able to submit talks, and we capped, you could only register up to 50 people. So it kind of kept it small. And the Lightning Talks ended up being like a really popular feature, right? Because it's like they were able to see our engineers and like important folks give talks, which we kept to 20, 25 minutes. And then people were able to submit their own talks and then have like discussions on like the Lightning Talks.
So I'm very interested. You built your platform just because you wanted to have a unified experience and not fragmentize people, not to download Zoom and go to Slack and then come back to Zoom and then go to another tool? Yeah, that was the motivation.
So HashiCorp deeply cares about design and the experience for the community. I don't know if you've ever attended any of our in-person conferences, but my team and we're actually the experiential marketing team, right? Because we deeply care, and you can see my apartment, right? I deeply care about design, user experience, things like that. So from the second someone would walk into our conference, right? Who are they greeted by? Where's the coffee placed? What's the lighting like? What type of music are we playing? What's the seating, right? So for the last 5 years, my team and I spent so much time. How do you build community, right? And how do you kind of take the HashiCorp brand and bring it to life in a physical space, right? So we spent so much time kind of creating this space, right, in a physical. Why wouldn't we put that same energy into our virtual conferences? So that's why we looked at a bunch of the different platforms, but none of them allowed us to kind of, hey, this is how we want to design our conference. These are the features based on understanding our community, and none of those kind of allowed us. So yeah, we went the route of building our own platform, which was nutty.
And what's the number one feature that you're proud of in all that new system that you've built? Probably the one that you designed, or the one that you pushed forward.
I mean, I think I'm proud that we took a step back and we really tried to build something for our community, right? And like I had mentioned earlier, our community comes to our conferences for that like education and knowledge sharing, right? Like they want to learn about the latest about Terraform or Vagrant or Vault, right? So we made sure we had really good quality content, right? We hired producers. Like we learned we were TV producers, right? We were running a broadcast, but we were also conscious of people's time. So our conference was only 3 hours a day, and the talks were only 20 minutes because people only have so much attention span. And also, that's another, right? You as a community builder, you need to be empathetic to your community and to their situations, right? So last year, a lot of us were at home. We have kids at home. We have pets that need to go out. Employers aren't really giving people time off of work to attend a conference. So we're like, we can't expect someone to come and stay at our conference all day. So we were like, hey, here's just kind of 3 hours, right? You can really easily make your schedule, right? We had a really nice schedule feature. And so people were able to come back and it's like, oh, I just want to come back for Mitchell and Armand's keynote. Yeah, so we kept the talks 20 minutes and short. And again, just acknowledging that people were stuck at home, they had lives, they had work, and we didn't have their full attention.
This is so great. I'm just like listening how you're paying attention to such small details and like taking care and such an empathy. And I'm like, wow. I don't know. This sounds so great.
I think community, right? As community builders, it requires empathy. It requires like, especially last year, like I just posted a Café Jana, and I was like, one of my lessons is people really need lightness and joy right now and a bit of play and fun, right? So last week we tried to make the broadcast a bit more fun. So I call them moments of play, right? So during the different so one, we had really empathetic, amazing MCs, right? That kind of set the tone for the day. And then during all the breaks, we just hired like musicians and visual artists. So we had just really nice kind of music and we did like cool games during the broadcast. So we did like little scavenger hunts, bingo. So again, right, just how do you kind of add a little bit of joy, especially after such a tough year? And people really enjoyed it.
I wish all like people who are organizing conferences and stuff like that would have such empathy level, because this is amazing.
Jana is a big boss, so she doesn't need to, to approve budgets for all these extra nice things. She just like, here, I have budgets for the cool stuff, and that's it.
Well, still, it's not only about the budget. It's like about, first of all, like thinking about the people. So like how Jana told that, like, oh, well, like people are busy, so we will not make a long conference. Like, well, it's not about the budget, I think. It's about just thinking about other people.
But the musicians.
And in the early days, right, when I didn't have large budgets, I still you're still like, that's why one of our pillars for community building is designing with empathy, right? You still have to keep people how they think, right? That they need breaks. You still have to keep people in mind when you're creating a space. And that doesn't necessarily mean like spending a lot of money, right? That just means being an empathetic person. Yeah.
And I think people like actually feel it. And when they feel that you're kind of taking care of them in this way, they're coming back to you. And it's easier to build a community after all when you like gave so much care. People would like to come back. So I totally
It makes a difference. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So you don't need to
You're
struggle
right.
like, oh, what should I think of? They already like you. So, you're just like, I
Yeah.
come here.
Right. It is nice to have a little bit more, I mean, HashiCorp's a bit larger company, right? So I did have a little bit more money, right? To be able to, I mean, there's a 60-person team that produced HashiConf Europe last year, right? From the team that built the platform to like, we were running HashiCorp TV, right? Every second by second was accounted for in terms of the music and the lower thirds that came in, and now Mitchell and Armand, and the speaker comes up for the Q&A. So it's, yeah, so
wait, but Jana,
it was a higher level production because that's where HashiCorp is, right? But if you're a small stage startup and a bit scrappier, it doesn't have to have that polish. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm just thinking, you mentioned that you have a full-fledged broadcast studio right now, but like, do you outsource that, or did you transform HashiCorp also into your production studio pretty much? Because like you produce all these podcasts and all these videos, and so like, do you still outsource that, or are you a TV channel?
We should. The thing is, HashiCorp is remote, so we've always been remote. We're about 1,600 employees. We're remote, so we have like a little office in San Francisco, but it's hard to build a broadcast production studio if none of us are in San Francisco. So we hire different like production agencies. So the company we use, they're actually phenomenal. They're called Nemobo, and they're based in Amsterdam. And they're really just fantastic partners.
So yeah, this is like always we're talking about like that human thing, like empathy and stuff, and they're like, what about production? What about technical thing? Like always breaking the mood.
But it's both, right? It's both. Yeah. So like for example, like my team wasn't. I learned a lot. I think last year I got an MBA in terms of how to like to be a leader, right? How to lead during a crisis. Right? I had a team that was set up, right, and we were doing in person. We had 18-month roadmaps. Like everyone had very clear. This is ownership, and I had to repivot my whole team, and I had to kind of figure out whose skill set would be best, and also learn how to run virtual conferences, reposition my team while also being like a support for my team, right? Everyone, I had 2 team members that were in Amsterdam that were so far, that are American expats that were far from their family. I had another person on my team who had 2 little kids that were at home. So it's like, not only did we have to quickly pivot and transition, I also had to learn like, oh, wow, this is when you have to really step up as a manager and be empathetic and support and sometimes jump in and help. And so last year was just if people didn't learn something from last year about themselves, or that I feel like it's a really missed opportunity.
I learned that I'm a boring old dude, and Lara made sure I learned just that throughout the year.
Can I just be Alec for a second and ask a slightly boring question? From what you're telling me, I feel that you also deeply care about mindful content creation and mindful content consumption. And given the fact that you have such a big event, and after big events there is usually a lot of content and a lot of video content and audio content that is left out, I wonder, do you have any content shipment pipeline that you have designed again with empathy in mind, so your readers or listeners will not have like bombarded by a lot of content at the same time?
Yeah, you tell me what your strategy is. I don't think we do the best job of it. Yeah, all of our content, the platform is still live. So if you go to like hashiconf.com, you can still actually log into the platform and see the platform. So all the video lives, right after a talk would end, right, it would go into our video on demand section on the platform. So people were able to watch the talks there. And then on Friday, they're just going to go up on our YouTube channel. So no, I think it could get overwhelming at some points. I'd love what you all have done or you all think.
Yeah, Anna. So what's the solution?
I don't have a solution. I'm just interested. I think, like, from my perspective, it's like TLDRing stuff really works, like creating a video or something and then just doing a TLDR of it, like how Oleg is doing with this episode on the newsletter. He just writes a small TLDR at the end, and who wants to read it reads it, who wants to listen to the whole experience listens it. I was interested how big companies are managing that kind of a big content pipeline that they for sure have. And yeah, I don't have an answer to that. Sorry.
I told you that I was very clever and very talented. So let me just share about that. No, really.
Love it.
What would you like, for example, with the live video podcast that we're now recording, right? So everything that you people watch, this is being produced in real time. So like when we need to show the website, like that's real time. Then it gets shipped as video, as audio, and as a newsletter text. And people just choose the way they want to produce the content, the way they want to consume the content. And yeah, that's it.
Well, but we don't have such a big production.
Yeah, we just do
I am the production. Yeah. Look, let's actually talk about Jana and her book. Because like
That's
she.
But so for HashiCorp, we had about 35 talks. And all of 90% of them were pre-recorded and edited prior to the conference. So we already had like the final videos. So once they went up into the video on demand section, and now that they're going to go up on YouTube, they're done. But we'll just like tweet out like, hey, now watch this talk on Terraform featuring X customers. So we'll slowly kind of trickle them out and same in our newsletter, but they all just go up on YouTube. Okay, next.
The book. I mean, because like you were saying about like what, like all the tremendous experience that you got throughout this year, and I assume that's what the book is about. Well, it's called Digital First Events, so.
Gosh, I don't know how I got the energy last year. I think because I was just like locked in my apartment. I used to travel. I used to be on the road every 3 weeks. My word pre-pandemic, which I've been holding on to, was oversubscribed. I think we were just like traveling and working so much, and like you come back here and there's friends and dinners, right? I think I was just like so empty all the time. I don't know if you all feel the same thing. But then when like the pandemic
I felt
happened,
just depressed. I don't know, like I couldn't do anything. So
then when the pandemic happened, right, you're like, oh, all the things that used to bring me joy, like live music or going on dates or like having dinner with my girlfriends or something, like, or just traveling, right? Working in tech, you have friends that like live all over the world, and it's like I couldn't see anyone. So I was definitely depressed for a while. And then I just kind of and then I just became an introvert, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna sit here and read a book, and it feels really nice, and I'm gonna go to bed early. And then all of a sudden I had like time, like I had like brain capacity to do other things.
I just remember like Jana writing on LinkedIn like, hey, would you care if I wrote a book? And then like in a few days, okay, so I'm totally writing a book. I am writing the book. Like she's getting lots of likes for that. It was like so fun.
Yeah, I think like 150 people commented. It was cool. Like I was like, okay.
I was one of them.
Thank you for your encouragement.
LinkedIn influencer.
LinkedIn influencer. Good job.
But
so yeah, tell about the book more. What's there? Because can you spoil
so it's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, HashiCorp, right? We started in the open source. All of our tools are open source, and it has this ethos of sharing, right?
The Alec is showing on the stream the video, and there is a dog.
Yeah, so just open the dog. I'm also. I'm sorry.
And I was like, look, so cute. And I zoomed out. I'm sorry. I was looking at how you're petting the dog. And I was like, oh.
I zoomed out totally. I was like, oh, like it's just so cool how like the best setting to promote a book, there is the dog, then you have colorful pants and the fireplace. And I'm like, yes, I'm buying that. Like, whatever. Like check.
I just prove myself as an experiential marketer? Am I right? Like, do I no longer the dog, the fireplace, and the pan?
10 out of 10, like, perfect. Okay,
Wow,
turn
thank
off
you.
the
You
video.
make me. It's amazing. Yeah. So working at HashiCorp, right? It's a culture of like sharing and helping and educating and supporting, right? So for me, I'm like, oh, it's so weird, right? I always had kind of imposter syndrome. Like a lot of my friends are engineers, right? My ex-boyfriend, like he worked at GitHub, right? He traveled the world, spoke all over the world, and I was always like, do I ever have anything to share, right? Like, and so it's interesting. Last year, I my first thing, I taught a workshop on design at Harvard. So that kind of kicked things off last January. And then I just started blogging more and writing more. And then I started getting like you all invited me to do something with you. So I started getting more speaking engagements. And I was like, oh, maybe I have learned something, right? In the 13, 14 years that I've worked, in the tech space. And so that's kind of what inspired the book as well. I was like, oh, okay, I think I did something special last year, right? Or I think my approach to community building isn't new, right? Sometimes it becomes like a hot subject, but I've been doing community building since like 2010 when I worked at a company called Engine Yard, right? It wasn't a hot term, but we were sponsoring open source projects, right? We like back in the day, we had sponsored Mitchell Hashimoto, our HashiCorp founder, to work on Vagrant. We had hired open source contributors to work on Rubinius or to move like Ruby on Rails forward, right? So it's like early days, we were sponsoring conferences, sponsoring open source projects, hosting meetups in our office. I'm like, so I've been doing community building, since back then. And so I just decided to like write a book on kind of how
And I'm
we
sorry,
approach.
how the fuck did you have imposter syndrome then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
how
sitting
dare
like
you? How dare you to have it? It's my thing,
I double down on that question, and I also want to I'm double down, and I want to double down on the double down by saying that the way I met Jana is when there was a live event by Patrick from Orbit, and Jana was one of the speakers, and I was like, what she's saying is amazing. Like I should totally do something with Jana, and then I invited Jana to Slash Data's conference, and yes, Jana, how the fuck did you have imposter syndrome? Like it's impossible.
Oh, you're like making me too. Thank you. No, I think we all have, right, our own. I mean, I'm just like, what do I know? What do I have to teach people? Right? We all have our own.
No, Alec doesn't have his imposter syndrome.
Teach him out.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. So I think for me, once I did like smaller little meetups and started blogging, I was like, okay. And then you start to just get a bit more comfortable. And you also like learn how to kind of refine your story and how to speak about things. But yeah, so that's what inspired the book. I was like, hey, could I actually like help share how we approached, building community, how we approached building engaging virtual conferences. And so that's the book is literally just like step by step on how to think about kind of writing up an RFC and understanding your goals and which parts, like which programs you should add, and how to approach like how to do the broadcast and how to do the production, how to find like the right platform, right? Whether it's DIY or using an existing platform out there or building your own. So it's literally just kind of like a guide.
No, I will ask. I will double down on the book. So you talked. I heard like there's technical part of it, but other like human factors in this. Like, what should you do as a human?
Are you saying you're gonna read the book?
I'm just wondering. I'm trying to understand. So like,
there's both.
Okay.
Right? Just
okay.
Yeah, so I co-wrote it with my good friend, and he also works with my team, Yoop. And so he does a little bit more on like the technical side of things. And of course, as you can tell, I'm the human empathetic, right? So of course we talk about designing with empathy, how to like think of your schedule, how to like design your conference, right? How to design the broadcast, things like that. Yes. There's technical, but there's also kind of human elements as well.
Have you self-published it or you got a publisher?
Yeah, we self-published it. It's so interesting, right? I thought writing, I never thought I was a great writer per se. That's another, wow, I have so many, like, I don't think I'm a great writer. I don't think I have anything to like teach people. We all deal with that. So we ended up self-publishing on LeanPub, which is phenomenal. I don't know, have you heard of LeanPub?
No, but
It's
I'm
really
playing with the triggers right now, and it's so cool. Like how I can trigger like how much do I want to pay and what authors earn, and that's just so cool.
It's really cool. So I really love and respect LeanPub. It's really popular in like the developer engineering community. So a lot of folks self-publish like technical books on LeanPub, and they just make it really easy for you to self-publish. Either they create like the ebook for you, or you can upload one that you design. And then they take about 20%, right? Versus Amazon's like 75%. So some of the other ones take a bit more. So they're pretty fair in terms of like how much like royalties the writers get paid. But again, I thought writing the book would be the hard part, but it was really like the marketing. Like, what do we name this thing? How do we design, right? What does the cover look like? I hired one of my good friends, Erin Carney, to design the book for me. But again, and then it's like, okay, we should build a website, right? If people outside of our circle don't know us, so it's like, oh, we should buy a domain. Oh, okay, how do we market and promote? So that piece ended up being just as hard as writing the book, and I think I didn't realize that.
Hey, welcome to being the creator, and except for the book, you also have Café Jana, and I can recognize from the videos that Café Jana is pretty much your apartment. That's where you're feeling that. Can you reflect a bit more about why did you start it? And since that's like a sort of a personal video podcast on YouTube, so why and how and who and I don't know, or like, do you feel YouTuber? I don't know.
Why YouTube? Are you asking why you? Am I just old school here? Are you just trying to convince me on Discord and you're like, why YouTube?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Well,
God, I don't have all the answers, right? I don't think any of it. This is why I love attending talks or speaking or just having these type of discussions, right? I'm like, okay, I think I've been missing out on Discord. I think this has convinced me that I need to look more into it. So that's why I love these type of discussions. I think Café Jana started. So Saturday mornings are like my most productive. I have like the most creative output on Saturday mornings. Because I think I have no plans on Saturdays. I usually keep like up until maybe like the afternoon or something. And so I'll just wake up feeling great. And I'm like, I launch a virtual series. Should I write a book? Should I do a cafe yacht? Right. So then there's something about Saturday. This past Saturday, I just wrote a proposal. Oh, we should talk about it. I want to tell you about my art show I want to do. It's called Send It. It's about showcasing dating and love in the modern day.
Oh my god!
Saturdays. But anyways, Cafe. Just really quickly. So Café Jana is. I'm just gonna post a video once a week, and it's gonna be about like community building, surviving stages of startup growth, life. I don't know. So I'm just gonna every kind of once a week, probably a Saturday morning, just record talking about something.
That's cool.
Also, yeah. So that's Café Jana.
So you are also a person with a lot of hobbies. We need to add you on the list.
Yeah, like how many energy do you have? Like how?
Do you hear that I'm sick? The problem is I then get sick and then your body's like, oh, you should rest for a couple days. No, but I'd actually love to run this idea by you. I don't know how much more time we have. Are we still talking about serious stuff?
No.
We have the next. Okay,
no
I
more
will have to
serious
jump
stuff
out because I have a speaking.
Yeah, Café Jana. I'm just gonna be posting once a week, and it's gonna be about community building. It's gonna be about events. It's gonna be about startup life, how to manage, different topics like that. And of course, I'll review the roast and the coffee I'm drinking that day.
That's cool. We have like our own show, by the way, like how what's the name? Ohaya podcast. Like we are making every Saturday with Oleg. Also kind of like this, also chill talk. You know, I'm complaining about my ex-boyfriends, like, and talking about the communities at the same time. So, you know, like this is
right. Just sometimes I just want to hear, just someone talking and about life.
I call it like kitchen talks. You know, when you're just like, there is a feeling that you're talking with friends, and I like it very much. Alec, for the first time, he was like, "No, who needs this? You need to talk serious shit," and I'm like, "No."
Yes. And also you got a beautiful cover for that. So that's your art.
Yeah, he's showing on the stream right now. So
amazing. And so it's interesting, right? Because we talk a lot about community building, and my friends call my apartment Café Jana. And for me, that like I've kind of used this space to build community. And I'll bring like the dining table, so I'll have like 8 girlfriends sitting in the living room, right? And we have like little benches and stuff. And so for me, I'm like, my space has kind of become this place where I've like built like my community of friends of New York, and it becomes kind of like people stop by Café Jana, or they just come. I just host them for dinner. So just it's how I built community in this space.
I don't know, like, oh my god.
So last time they had such a friendly discussion with a person from Vancouver, and Anna and Liara were like, "Hold on, we're packing our bags, flying out to Vancouver." So Anna and Liara, are you packing the bags to New York right now?
The same side, so let's go.
Yeah,
the same side.
Yes.
Good. Is it time to say goodbye?
Yeah. So we talked like actually a lot. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay.
Time flies so fast. Oh my god.
You're so sad about this.
Yes, because it was interesting very, very much. Because I like talking, you know, like these chill talks, you know, when about feelings and empathy and stuff
humans
like that. And humans. Yes.
People are craving that. I mean, that was my whole point of the video, Café Jana video. Like, people just want empathy and connections and lightness and just real. I think people are connecting to real.
Yes, that's what they miss from like the online events, because the online events feel like so
overproduced.
Yes, so fake. And when you feel something personal, with empathetic, you're like, I like it. So this is what we are aiming to also.
I loved this, and it was so nice to meet you all. And thank you for having me.
Yes.
Wait,
that was very nice.
Goodbye. Thanks.
Thank you.